Shall we begin?
Yeah, we can try Swamini. Are they saying it's working now?
No, I hope it's working.
Well, it looks like it's working, but
It's working?
it looks like it is. It's hard to tell. It'll take a couple of minutes for it to come through to
You wait for 2 minutes. You wait, we'll start. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shantihi. Okay. Yeah, the new 83. Navabhasa navagnatvat.
Navabhasa navagnatvat.
Not bhasa hai. Navabhasa navagnatvat.
Navabhasa navagnatvat.
Navopadhin navatmana.
Navopadhin navatmana.
Mithyagnatva vashishtetu.
Mithyagnatva vashishtetu.
Maunam Vedanta Dindimaha. Navabhasa navagnatvat.
Navabhasa navagnatvat.
Something is not right. Navabhasa, longa. Yeah. Navabhasa navagnatvat.
Navabhasa navagnatvat.
Navopadhin navatmana.
Navopadhin navatmana.
Mithyagnatva vashishtetu.
Mithyagnatva vashishtetu.
Maunam Vedanta Dindimaha. Yeah, so we are playing with the nines, you know. Yeah, 9 has a abiding presence in this. It's all working. Don't do anything. Yeah, it's working. So in this whole thing, in this text, especially of late, it has an abiding presence. The number 9. Come here and sit. You know, always a bad idea to sit directly behind someone. So this is the whole thing, is that there is this play on the number 9. And it started, if we remember, if we can throw our minds back by several months, it started with this whole understanding of the 9th fellow. Who is the 9th fellow? Yeah? The 9th fellow is the samsari, correct? Yeah. Why is the 9th fellow a samsari? The 9th fellow is a samsari because the 9th one is constantly missing the 10th. That is why. The 9th fellow is a samsari. And the 9th person, and this comes from a story that 10 fellows go somewhere on a picnic, and then one of them appoints himself as the monitor of the others, and he says, I'll bring all the 9 back. He assures the teacher, and on the way back he counts all of them. And he counts all of them, he forgets to count himself. Yeah. So the knower of the 9th man is a very sad man. Yeah. So the 9th person is a samsari. The one who says, there are only 9 people, that is the quintessential samsari. Correct? So the 9th one is, samsari means what? The one who is, committed to sadness. This is the new definition. Yeah, so everyone is, the jnani should be committed to, happiness as the truth of oneself. But this fellow is committed to sadness. You show all the gems of the universe, still sad. You take this person on a experiential extravaganza, if you can call it that. Still wanting. So the ninth person, the knower of the ninth person is not a liberated person in this example. The knower of the ninth person is a sad person. Meaning what? The knower, that the one who knows that there are only 9 things and one thing is missing. 10 being a round number. The 10th person is missing. Always life something is missing. I am missing from myself. I am missing this, that, everything. So so we saw this whole word play, that when the knower of the 9th man becomes the knower of the 10th man, the 10th man being himself. It's an ancient example, so it's patriarchal, so there are 10 fellows. But we can say, women also, doesn't matter. So the knower of the 10th person is the one who is liberated from this sense of wanting, from this sense of commitment to worry, fear and sorrow constantly. This is what was the word play. Then after 82, the word play, also looked at this number 9 as a prevailing, placeholder of finitude. Very interesting. Because the 9 had another configuration here. It was, forget the example of the 10 men and the 9th one, only 9 coming back in this fellow's understanding. The one who forgets to count himself, the one who is always committed to the finite. From there, the number 9 became another expression of finiteness. How? Because we counted the 5 sense organs. Mind, buddhi, chittam, ahankara, all the various levels of the mind, the I notion, the emoting faculty, the decisive faculty, the indecisive faculty, and the one who owns up everything as this ahankara, I. And all these, various facets of the mind. Mano, buddhi, ahankara, chittani. Chittam, emoting faculty. Manaha. Manaha means what? The surface mind which is constantly vacillating. Buddhi, the intellect, or the place where the decisions are made. Ahankara, the one who says all this is me. That is the one. So all this was, these 4 plus the 5 sense organs. Or you can take 5 bunches of 5 plus these 4. Vagadi pancha, Shravanadi pancha, Pranadi pancha, Abhramukhani pancha. Buddhyadi, Avidyadi, all these things, And Puri Ashtakam, Sukshma Shariram, Ahuhu. So that was also in the Viveka Chudamani. We see that they take groups of 5, 4 groups of 5. Vagadi pancha. So speech. Speech, when you say, it's like for children we have these SAT questions. Hat, coat, shoes, umbrella, orange. What doesn't belong? Shoes. No. Clearly it's orange. Correct? So this is how it is. So when you say speech, all the things that go with speech should immediately come to mind. What else goes in this particular classification, the Vedantic classification? Speech is at the top of which list?
Actions.
Huh?
Organs of action.
Organs of actions, karmendriyas. Speech, hands, legs, reproductive and excretory functions. These are the organs that do these functions, are called organs of action. Then Shravanadi pancha, ear, etc. The group of 5 starting with the ear. Sense organs. Why ear? Because again, it is invoking the Kenopanishad. Shrotriyasya shrotram. Shrotrasya shrotram. Not shrotriya. Shrotrasya shrotram. The ear of the ear. So that's a different note. But here, coming back, so the 5 sense organs, the 5 actions or action-oriented organs. Prana. When you say prana, then? Yeah. All the things that you do in Naivedya come to mind. So prana means all the other subtle involuntary functions that happen to maintain this body. That also is in a group of 5. Respiration, circulation, excretion, digestion, and then tick, tick, tick. The one who is ready to recall the life force out of this body at the appointed time. The one that is marking time. That is called Udana. And many times we have discussed this. We don't come to life with a set number of years. We come to life with a set number of breaths. That's why never ask for a paper bag. Never be in a place needing to hyperventilate. Breathe slowly. Yeah. In between, 1 or 2 minutes, 1 or 2 breaths, you can breathe without getting blue in the face. This is what the yogis did to live long time, Yama was unperturbed. He said, I'll just have a double espresso in that time. That's what he did. So, like this. So, pranadi pancha. And abhramukhani pancha. Abhramukha means the 5 elements from which all this has come. So, those are also 5. Then we have, Buddhi Adi. Buddhi Adi means those 4 which we talked about, the mind and so on. Avidya, all these things. That's a different way of reckoning. But here also, here we can even bring in that reckoning, or just the 5, sense organs and the mind, etc. is enough. 9, or 5 organs of action and then mind, etc. Those 4 are 9. So this new number 9 is again a number of incompletion, because identified with this 9, that's the connection from the 9th man. Yeah, identified with this 9, one is still unhappy. That is what we have to understand. Identified with these 9, because this is what is samsara. Samsara is not without, it is right here. Centered on the I is samsara. As soon as I say I am restless, samsara has taken place. How? Because what am I doing? I am attributing the I, is equal to the prana, the breathing. The breathing is restless, therefore I am restless. I am angry. Now the mind is angry and I am saying I am angry. I am attributing myself as just the mind. Correct? Same thing with everything. I am hungry. Everywhere the I comes, thanks to ahankara. So the misplacement or the displacement of this I, rather, is called samsara. The repatriation of this I back to where it belongs is moksha. Simple. And so these 999 here, so let us see what this 999 is. So here it says, Nava abhasaha. Abhasaha means the appearances, the projections, the 9 forms of projection. And the 9 forms of projection, Nava abhasaha, Nava upadhin, means have the one who is having these 9 expressions. Upadhi here means the forms of expression. So Nava abhasa, Nava upadhi. So the one who has these 9 forms of expressions that are merely 9 forms of appearances. It's an apparent reality. Just because you can count 1 to 9 does not make them real. That is not real. Real is you, the wielder of the 9, or the knower of the 9 as mithya. That's what is going to be said. It's a little difficult construction, but Navopadhin and then Nava Atmana. Nava Atmana means the one who is the truth of the 9. So by the one who is the truth of the very essence of all these 9 manifestations of the body, mind, sense complex, the one who is able to see these 9 expressions as mere mithya. Mithya means what? Yeah, it's dependent on I. I am, therefore thought is. Not like that other German philosopher who said.
Descartes is French.
French, yeah. Most of the philosophers are German, yeah. So, and this fellow said, I think, therefore I am. Supposing somebody asks him, is it raining? Hey Descartes, is it raining? You know? What will he say? I don't think so. That means he ceases to exist when he doesn't think. This is the trouble with putting Descartes before day horse. This is what it is. That's what it is. You know. Fortunately for him, before he died, he revised his statement. Yes, and we have to give credit where it is due. So he did say that I am, therefore I think. I got it wrong. It takes someone who is honest. You know, a scientist has to be honest. A philosopher has also to be honest. A scholar has to be honest. So it gives, you know, some inkling of his intellectual integrity that he revised his statement when he knew he was wrong. So the thought is an object, I am the subject. You know, you cannot say I think, therefore I am. I presupposes everything. You know, even hunger. If you are not there, where is the hunger? Where is the anger? Where is the hunger? Where is the fear? It's all dependent on you. And all these things come and go. You remain. You remain unencumbered, unafflicted by these, whether it is 9 or whether it is 19 or whether it is 99 or whether it is 99999 to the power of infinity. You still remain that infinite one upon which entity all these 9s are just stuck with little, you know, like little, sometimes, you know, these children, they put stickers on the wall and sometimes the whole house is covered in stickers. That's how you know the child lives here. That's what it is. These are just stickers. They fall off after some time. In the wake of knowledge, all these things that you think were stuck to me, stuck on me, all fall off. And the me remains unstuck, unafflicted, undiluted, and the one because of which all the appearances are kept up, which is in itself free of and unafflicted by the appearances. So Nava, why 9? Let there be 99 or 999. It doesn't matter. I is not affected. So Navatmana, by the one who is the truth of the 9. Navopadhin, the one who is the wielder of the 9. And when I know this, then I can enjoy the sense organs even when they don't work. This is the thing. Otherwise it's no problem enjoying the sense organs when they work. Even when they don't work, I know I am the wielder of them. And I know that they are finite and I am infinite. And I am not identified with them. So if you stop hearing acutely or seeing sharply, doesn't mean that there is any kind of a statement on you. There is no statement on you. You know? That has a certain trajectory. Especially, you know, the hearing, especially in these modern days of noise pollution and so many and other forms of noise pollution that goes by with the name of music, pop music, you know. And then there are all these headphones which amplify that. and listening to things on the headphone all the time, they are saying that is very bad for health. For the, auditory health, very bad. Even for the mental health, it is not good. Cannot be. And so this whole thing, of course, the poor ear will say, I'm done. It throws in the towel. It says, I'm done. Because it's being bombarded with all kinds of things. It's just meant to, hear the birds chirping and maybe a few, resonances, a little gossip here and there. That's all. That's all. But then we bombard it with all kinds of things. Same thing, and this eyes looking at things called tablets. In my day, tablet was something we swallowed when you had fever. From where I come from, this is what tablet means. Did you have your tablets today? Now tablet is something else. Tablet means you have to just keep on pouring the vision on that. Everything is, what is that called? Backlit. Very bad for the eyes, they say. So the eyes also, poach, gone. And then ears gone, tongue gone, all kinds of things we put on it, Nose gone. Everything, it goes. But the eye, the wielder of these sense organs, not gone. This is the thing. This is the one that never goes. Why? Because it never came. It always is unchanged. It is free of all limitations. So the limitations, when I identify with the limitations, there is no one sorrier than I. This is the truth. So here, I am the Navatma. When I am the Nava Upadhi, I am the one who is the wielder of these 9 expressions. I am toting these expressions. I am not them. Toting comes from tote bag, Yeah, you tote it around. You can take off the bag you can take off the tote and put it down. You don't have to carry it. So Navopadhin, Navatmana, then why is this Navatma? The knower of this 9 as finite is a holy person. Why? Because the next line says, Mithya Jnatva. Knowing everything as mithya, 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 through a prakriya, a teaching methodology called na iti, na iti. This is not me, this is not me, this is not me. There is certain negation that needs to come in our thinking, in our orientation, in our vocabulary. Na iti, na iti, iti, na iti, na iti, jnatva. What is this, Na iti. Na iti means these sense organs are not me. I am Satchidananda. I am Asti Bhati Priyam. I am the whole. These sense organs is not the total, culmination of what I am. I am not the sense organs. Mano buddhya hankara chittani naham. We have a nice song for that. A nice chant. Na cha shrotra jihve, na cha ghrana netre, na cha vyoma bhumir, na tejo na vayuhu, chidananda rupa shivoham, shivoham. Manaha, buddhihi, ahankara, chittani. These 4 things, these 4 levels of the mind. Those other 5 are the sense organs. These 4 levels of the mind are actually more pervasive in their hold and in their identification as me. So that's why the author takes this up first. Manaha na me. This mind is not mine. It's not me. Buddhi. Sometimes the identification with the mind is so powerful. One thinks of oneself, I am this particular, I think so well, I'm so fast, I'm so quick, I know so many languages, I know so many facts, all of them useless, but I know them nonetheless. This is what, this is where the ego catches. So I'm not the buddhi. I'm not the chitta. I'm not the one that falls into a puddle each time something adverse happens. Melts into a puddle, People need buckets to give the person a ride home, And ahankara, the one that says me, that also I am not. Nacha shrotra jihve, I am neither the hearing nor the taste buds and everything in between. Nacha ghrana netre, I am not the sight nor the sound nor the smell. And I am not the 5 elements out of which all this has come. Nacha vyoma bhumihi, na tejaha na vayuhu. I am not the air, the space. Vyoma, space. Bhumi, earth. Tejaha, fire. Vayuhu, air. I am not all of them. Then what am I? Because then the danger is, what is the danger?
Zero.
From hero to zero. This is the life. Otherwise you can come into a mistaken conclusion that I am nothing. But this is not a very hearty conclusion. Do you feel good when you say I am nothing? No. Already I had, sneaking suspicion I am nothing. And then now the well ascertained knowledge is I am zero. Very sad. So we shouldn't come to that conclusion. Because the one who says zero, is that person existent or not?
Yes.
Because can zero exist without I?
Yes.
Yes?
No.
Without you there is no zero. You are the hero that looks at the zero and gives it the name. This is what the whole thing is. That's why in Sanskrit we don't have the word shunya. It is a recent word. We have one word, but it's not used. It's used only in Buddhist thought, really. If supposing you do Vedic mathematics and you say 2 minus 2, what is the answer? You will not say shunya. You will say pujya. Pujya. Pujya means what do you get when you take away 2 from 2? The answer is the most worshipful one remains. Who is this most worshipful one? You, the one who is doing the sum. The one who is resolving this equation. So when you take away 2 from 2, what remains is I. The cognizer that there is nothing in this place at this time is I, which is undeniable, which is non-negatable, and which is the most worshipful one because it is equated with Bhagavan, with God. So that's what remains. So too here, we are doing a takeaway sum, We are doing minus. I minus buddhi. Oh. So, I minus manaha, I minus this, minus that, minus. So kya mila? What is there at the end? Only plus. That's why Chidananda Rupa. I am in the form of that Chit. Don't confuse with Chittam. Chittam is emoting faculty. But Chit, Chitihi, this is different. That is consciousness. That is myself. That awareness of the zero is myself. So here too, mithya, all the mithya I am taking away. Take away. What remains? Avashishtaha means that which remains. That which remains is I, the most worshipful thing. And how is that? Avashishtetu. So when I recognize that I, what is there to say? What is there to say?
What to say too?
Nothing. Because there's no one to say to, because everything is you. So you can't say anything. Because the reason to talk is because there's another person, correct? So if another person comes in front of you, even if you don't want to talk, you talk. Naturally, because you have to interact. And sometimes you think the other person wants me to talk. Actually, that's not true. They are enjoying the silence. But you feel pressured to talk, thinking they want you to talk. So this is how it is. And then, no, but then, someone may raise their hand at this point and say, but I talk to myself. Which self? Which self we have to ask? Because when these 9 are not interrogated, then the buddhi and the mind are at war inside. Yes, an expression of autoimmune condition right there. That's what it is. The buddhi and the mind are at war. The mind says, I want it, I see it, I have to have it, and I have to have it now. The buddhi says, no, you have just started Vedanta study. I think this is not such a good idea. It will take you away from this thing. No, I want it now. You see, there is already this. And that's when the person thinks that talking to oneself may, articulate the differences here. Oh, should I do this? Should I not? Then one becomes a Hamlet in one's own house, in one's own Hamlet, To be or not to be, that is the question, like this. So even when you talk to yourself, there are different warring entities in the form of these 9 things which want different things, and they are pulling the mind in different directions. And that which fuels this war, which gives the ammo means what? Ammunition. Which fuels this war and gives the ammunitions are our very own ragadveshas. That's what it is. It's the ragadvesha subsidized war. And which becomes it may be subsidized, but it becomes costly for our study and for our understanding. Very difficult. And so therefore, so avashishte means that which, when I recognize that which remains, has nothing to do with this universe. In fact, where is this universe? It's all me. There's nothing other than I. And all this is me alone. Then what happens is that the mind is overcome, finally falls in line. The mind is overcome by that quietude. The quietude that is not opposed to speech. This is something we have to understand. That is what is meant in the Dakshinamurti Dhyana Shloka, Mauna Vyakhya Prakatita Parabrahma Tattvam. Mauna Vyakhya. Silent speech. Maunam here doesn't mean that, if one is a jnani, this is a mistake, that one has to just be quiet. Do you want coffee? Shall I biff you in the face? It's very confusing. And especially confusing if one has the bad luck to have a Mauni Jnani as one's teacher. Very confusing. Yeah. And the person is not able to study from anyone else because the heart is given here to this teacher. The teacher who will not teach. Just sits quietly. Difficult. Because you have to always guess what is the person thinking, what is the person feeling, what is the person saying, and that guesswork is coming from one's own projections, not from the teacher. Because the teacher is not saying anything, just sitting. So really speaking, what is this maunam here? The maunam is lack of, what's the word for it? The verbiage. Verbiage, verbal garbage, verbiage, And this is a certain satisfaction and a contentment from which place there is no need for words, because the words are usually deployed when there is a sense of wanting. Sometimes people speak to show off. Sometimes people speak to compensate for something they don't have. Sometimes people speak in order to be heard, for attention. Many times people speak because they are afraid of certain emptiness. So they have to fill up that space. People are afraid of a sense of void. So the speech comes from so many things. Speech comes from guilt. speech comes from hurt, speech comes from fear, speech comes from all these emotions that are not completely recognized, resolved. And here, when all this is understood, that contentment, there is no, from that space of contentment, there is no pressure to speak. There is a difference. It's not that the commitment is to the silence. No, the commitment is to the contentment. Silence is an expression of this contentment. But speech is not opposed to this contentment either. You can have a contented silence, you can have a contented speech. If speech were opposed to this contentment, then the contentment becomes finite. But the contentment is limitless, so it's not opposed to speech, it is not opposed to silence. We have to understand this. Because I'm emphasizing on this because in the modern Vedantic parlance, somehow there is this feeling, and people say this also, those who talk do not know. This is very much prevalent in certain parts of South India, Tiruvannamalai. Those who talk, they will say this. I have heard people say this. Those who talk, that means they don't know. Those who know, what? Don't talk. Maunam, very dangerous. Not good. Not good for health, not good for Vedantic health either. See, I'm warming up now. Yeah, so not good for health. It's an incomplete understanding of contentment. That contentment which is centered on I, how can a mere vak, which is a sense, which is an organ of action deployed by this I, how can it come in the way of this contentment? How can it break? What kind of a contentment is it that is broken by mere speech? Tell me that. We already said that vak is just, that speech is just one of those 9 things which I have decried as mithya. Now the same mithya will creep back and stop this contentment? Never. So maunam here is stopping verbiage, one meaning. There is no pressure to speak in order to be heard, in order to compensate, in order to express guilt or remorse, in order to ventilate the hurt. First meaning. Maunam, second meaning. The contentment is such that one is happy being oneself. And many times you can see this, especially in a group. On a particularly contented day, when you feel like you're okay, you can try this out. When you feel everything is okay around you, you just sit in a group and you just, the thoughts will keep coming. And you will notice that whatever you think somebody else will say, it will happen. And you can just delight in that. Whatever you thought, someone, supposing you said, you sit there, you're in a party or in a potluck or something. You sit there and think, it's getting dark. I wonder if I should say that we should put the light on. Somebody will put the light on or they will say it. And you think, feeling a little peckish, wonder what is there to eat. And somebody will come in the door, sway into the house with a big platter of something. This is what happens. That is that contentment. It's not opposed to speech, but there is no need for me to be the actor, even the actor of the words. So I'm neither the actor nor the acted upon. So I am in my own glory. Sve mahimni tishtami. Swasya mahima, my own glory. I reside, I abide, I live in my own glory, so that there is nothing that is absolutely needed to deploy any sense organ. Why just speech? Why just organ of action? There is no pressure. Ityartha. This is the meaning. Yeah, mithya jnatva. So knowing mithya, therefore, is very important. Knowing mithya jnatva avashishte tu. Avashishte means what? That which remains. That which remains, one remains, and that which remains is the the translation here should not be taken seriously. Then one remains in silence. This is very dangerous. Yeah. Remains in silence means what, Jnani is sitting, the house catches fire, remains in silence, especially if there are other people. So that's not correct. We have to see this more, creatively, from the standpoint of the knowledge that we do know. Because mere speech does not disturb this contentment. So Maunam here is an expression of contentment. Why? Because why not speech is an expression of contentment? Because it's hard to keep quiet. That's why Maunam is used. It's hard to keep quiet. So, speech also is an expression of contentment. Can be. But usually what we see is like a speech that rattles, speech that is coming from the pressure of the ragadveshas within. So therefore, we go back here to understanding what is the Maunam an expression of. It is the expression of my own glory. That's how we have to take it. And that glory is incumbent upon recognizing mithya. You have to understand that as well. Recognizing mithya as that which is dependent on I. Starting with my own body, mind, senses. Moving further, some very nice verses are coming. Parame brahmani swasmin pravilapyakhilam jagat gayan advaitam Aste Vedanta Dindima Parame Brahmani Swasmin Pravilapyakhilam Jagat Gayan Advaitam Vedanta Dindima. Yeah. Before we even touch this verse, I'm going to touch upon two kinds of examples that we Vedantins use as teaching tools. We know both of them very well. Yeah. Because we have used them many times. One, of course, is what? Pot clay. Correct? Yeah. And what is this pot clay business?
Karma is not separate.
What is it in illustrating? Why do we use this?
Source is not separate from.
Yeah, so the whole pot is nothing but clay. Clay is not pot. Pot is clay, clay is not pot. Got it? Mm-hmm. Say yes, even if you don't mean it. Yeah. So pot is clay. Clay is not pot. Yeah. This is what is quintessential Satyam Mithya. This is the most effective thing. You can also use gold and ornaments. Same thing. Ornament is gold, but gold is not ornament. So the gold transcends the ornament in the same way as the clay, quote unquote, transcends the pot. Correct? So this is what is this. So pot here cannot be said to be non-existent because I'm holding it. Right? And it cannot be said to be existent because that which exists is clay. Because the pot is clay, we have said that. So the is belongs to not pot, clay. So then the pot cannot be said pot is not because I see it, I can hold it. If it was not a cracked pot, I could even drink a sip of water with this. So, therefore, we cannot deny the existence of the pot. Neither can we affirm the existence of the pot, because the existence of the pot is dependent upon the clay. So we are in a fix, or we were, until the Shruti came up with the word mithya. So mithya is not an attribute of the pot. It is a reality statement of the pot. It is an inquiry into the nature of the reality that the pot happens to fall in, which is not absolute. A reality which can neither be affirmed nor be denied. And a reality that is dependent upon the absolute. This is what we used to talk about mithya. And really this is the safest way to look upon mithya. And then the other one, if we don't have this one, what else do we have? Come on. Rope snake. Yeah, that's why I told you. That's why it's called aropaha. Because you know. Yeah. Aropa means superimposition. Yeah. So the rope snake. Rope snake means there also, there are as though two entities. Right? In fact, the one entity has taken over the other. It's a rope lying with conveniently 3 bends in the dark. And then the front of it is frayed, so it is split like this. It's a frayed rope. Whether the rope is frayed or I am afraid, I don't know. But anyhow, so, and the back of it tapers into a small tail-like illusion. And it's got 3 bends. Tribhangi snake, I say. 3 bends it has. And then I scream and bring the whole house outside onto the lawn, and everyone, the whole neighborhood gathers, trying to make noises and make the snake go away. We'll pretend it's a Vaidika neighborhood. We're not trying to kill the snake. So everybody is trying to chase the snake away to make the lawn free of the snake. And then somebody says, no, it's a mere aropa. This is just a rope. Yeah. There is no snake. This is not a snake. Correct? Where did the snake go? Where did it go? It joined the rope. We cannot say it joined the rope. Correct? Because it was never separate from the rope. Yatra yatra rope, tatra tatra snake. Correct? So it was never separate from the rope. See, certain Sanskrit you don't even have to translate. Everybody understands. So, wherever there is rope, where there is rope, there is snake. Correct? That's how we say it in Sanskrit. In English we say wherever, but if you really translate it is where, there. So you cannot say it joined the rope because it was never separate from the rope. So it was, how can it join what was never separate cannot join. You cannot say when I was not looking, the snake and the rope parted ways and the snake went into a little hole in the ground. You cannot say that. So where did the snake, so in order to, demystify this puzzle, we have to look at where the snake came from. When you bought the rope, did you also buy the snake? The man, in America this is very much there. Buy one, get one free. Buy rope, get snake free. Did you do that? Did you go to the market and did you get the free snake? No. You only bought one rope, correct? And then your child played skipping with it and then left it like that. And then your heart skipped. That's why it's called skipping rope. Yeah. And that's what it is. So it's not that you purchased the snake along, you did not buy the snake along with you did not buy two entities. You only had one entity to begin with. So where did the snake come from? Where is the origin of this mysterious snake? It goes back to my own fear, because it's a projection, a vikshepa of what? My own fear. My fear-based projection on any kind of a sitting duck, convenient, sitting rope. Correct? Because the rope is not protecting itself. It's not saying, away you snake, don't come and malign my reputation, my reputation. It is not saying that. It's not saying that. Don't do this to me. It becomes a sitting duck for projections. And my fear joins the rope because of the convenient way it is lying down. And my fear manifests in the rope. And because of this fear, I see only snake and I do not see the rope. Correct?
Yeah, it's true.
And then, of course, we always need a passing jnani for these things. And a rope jnani happens to go by. And the rope jnani says, no, this is your own misunderstanding. There is no snake. Look, it's a rope. Really? You can touch it by the mouth where it is, frayed like this? Yes, I'll touch it. You can also... No, I don't have to touch it. If you touch it, it's enough. Still the person is little bit afraid. Then finally the rope jnani convinces this fellow to touch the snake, to pet the snake. And like Lord Shiva, to put the snake within quotes, around the head, with the frayed part here. And the person is now completely convinced. No, there is no snake. It is only rope. Here also there is a discussion of mithya, correct? What is mithya here?
The snake.
When you take so long to answer, I get worried. Yeah. What is mithya here? Snake. Yeah. Snake is mithya, rope is satyam, and we are looking at an example of superimposition. And when the superimposition is withdrawn, when clarity arrives in the form of the rope jnani, and the superimposition is withdrawn, all that remains is what? Rope. Come on, yeah, we are talking of this here. Yeah, don't skip the example. So all that remains is rope eva, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So this is a different, what's the word for it? This is a different deployment of a different example. One that Bhashyakara, Adi Shankara likes very much. At any given moment, you just drop, you just look at somewhere else and come back. He will discuss the rope snake. He loves this example. But from where we sit, completely identified with the Jagat, with the body-mind sense complex, and from where we sit, at times, which is Kali Yuga, where everything is a big, bundle of misinterpretation. And from the place, the socio-cultural milieu in which we sit also is rife with all kinds of, wrong thinkings. Coming under modern Vedanta. Those who know don't talk, for example. This kind of wrong understanding. So this rope snake analogy presents a little bit of a problem, because immediately when you extrapolate from, see, this is drishtanta. Drishtanta means the example. What is exemplified by this example, when you go there, that is called darshtanta. Drishtanta, that which is an example, and darshtanta, that which is trying to exemplify. That what is being exemplified is called darshtanta. So when you go to that which is being exemplified, when you go to the darshtanta, so what is the rope here and what is the snake? Huh? What is the rope? Yeah, what does the rope symbolize? Yeah, but what does it symbolize? Satyam, Satchidananda. And what is the snake? Samsara, Jagat. In other words, Jagat. Okay? So rope is adhishthana, the truth of what the Satchidananda, that is the truth. The truth of what? The Jagat, which is the snake. Now for the Jnani, we have to ask this question. Now it's very easy to say that in the light of the knowledge and the clarity, the well ascertained clarity of the rope, the snake disappears. Correct? Yes. So in the light of the well ascertained knowledge of the self, the Jagat disappears. No. Why? How? We will see after the break. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Yeah, 10-15 minutes, stretch your legs, do whatever you need to, we'll come back.
Is it saying that? Are they saying it's working something?
They're not saying anything. They're listening to the class. Here we have a mid-class prasad today.